What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next, I think I've got a pretty interesting topic here, maybe a little bit of a hot button issue. I'm going to be talking about valuing a comic book collection. Now, we're going to look at the value of the actual total collection as well as from the dealer perspective. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this was there was a Reddit post maybe like a month and a half ago that I saw, and it really bugged me. And so I wanted to talk about this one. I'd been thinking about how to present this topic. And this is basically this person posting how upset they were about a valuation that someone gave to them for their collection. And this kind of thing that what I feel as just ripping people off or trying to rip people off, it really bugs me. And so I wanted to talk about it. Let's check out this post. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So now I think that this is maybe an interesting topic coming from me because I do consider myself a dealer and I just bought a collection recently. I've bought a couple over the last few years, but generally buying collections isn't something I normally do. I generally prefer to buy individual books. I don't really like dealing with the bulk that comes with a collection. There's a lot of time that goes into processing those collections, going through all the bulk, finding the keys, rebagging, boarding, all that kind of stuff. So there is a lot that goes into a collection. So I totally get wanting to try and buy that collection for as little as you can so you can try to make that profit on the end after all the work that you've put into it. But this Reddit story, this is the kind of the other extreme of that, and it just something that really bugged me. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of those key factors that go into actually evaluating a collection. When you're looking at buying a collection, what are you really looking at with those books, with that collection? And first, we shouldn't be lying to ourselves. You know, if you're a dealer or you're buying a collection, you are buying that collection to make money. I mean, that is the purpose here. And so I'm not trying to say it's like, oh, they shouldn't be making any money or anything like that. It's like, no, if you are a dealer, if you are buying a collection, you are not doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You are buying that collection because you think that you can take what's there and turn a profit from it. And you're not just trying to make 10% or 20%. I mean, that is not worth your time with buying collections. There's just too much work that goes into it. So just first things first, if you have someone that's approaching you that they want to buy your collection, it is because they want to make money with it. They want to convert their time and their expertise into a profit from those books. And then the person selling that collection, they either don't have the expertise to maximize that value, or they don't want to put in the time and effort to get that money out of it. A lot of times you'll see responses to people selling their collections. They're like, oh, you should do this, or you should do that, look all these things up and use Key Collector or Overstreet or GPA or whatever. And some people do not have the time to go through and process a collection, to learn how to grade, to do all that kind of thing. And they don't want to do it. They don't want to deal with it. So I get that side of it. I get wanting to just sell your collection, get a lump sum for it, and be done with it. But then the tricky part comes in when you say, is that person that's going in to buy it ripping that other person off? Even if that person that's receiving the money is happy with what they got, if they don't realize what they actually lost, say you paid someone $5,000 for a collection. It seems like a lot of money to that person, but it was worth $100,000, $200,000, something like that. I mean, in my opinion, that dealer, they're ripping that person off. They are a bad person for what they did. That is too much. And I know it's hard to say, it's like, what's too much? But in that case, situations like that, it's too much. I mean, that's the only way I can look at it. You are ripping that person off, even if they are happy with it. Now, that's where it starts to get, where's that line? What isn't too much? Is it doubling your money, tripling your money, more? Like, what is it? I mean, for me, I generally am trying to target doubling my money. If I do better than that, then great. But that's what I'm evaluating a collection for. Now, when you look at all your time and everything that has to go into it, maybe you might be looking for a little more or a little less than that. But for me, that's generally what I'm looking for. Is I am generally looking at doubling my money when I put something into a collection. Now, for example, that Golden Age collection I just bought, I am definitely not doubling my money on that. I 100% paid too much for that collection. I'm still going to get my money out. I still think I'm going to make some money out of it. But after the time and effort that's going into it, oof. so, there's the other side of it. Like, you can pay too much for things too, but it definitely depends on the collection. There are certain things that you need to consider. And so I think there's a few things just to think about if you're ever looking at buying a collection. The first one is the quality and the rarity of the books. I mean, if it's a bunch of modern copper, just high print books, it's going to be a lot harder to sell those, a lot less value, a lot more difficult to get your money back out of it. Whereas if it's a bunch of big Silver Age keys or Bronze Age keys or Golden Age keys, or in my case, a lot of Golden Age books, your average dollar value per book is much higher in those situations than if you're dealing with a bunch of modern and copper bulk. The next one is, how quickly can you get your money back out of it? How many books does it take to break even? Something you should definitely consider there. And what is your upfront cost? I mean, it's a different situation if you're putting up $100 or $1,000 to buy a collection, or $500,000. If you have $500,000, you could buy a house and, get rent for that. There's lots of other options that you have with your money there. So those are things you have to consider as well, because you've got opportunity costs with the money that you're spending to buy these comics. And then the last thing is just how much effort is going to go into getting it back out. Listing, shipping, traveling to shows, all of that. And so that all comes down to bulk, how you deal with that bulk, and how you're really going to be getting your money back out of the collection. But those are just some of the things, if you're looking at buying a collection, some of the things you want to think about and consider. Now, let's look at this Reddit post, because this one, like this type of thing, this really bugs me. So this is the title of the post. It says, "Overwhelmed," and then : "heartbroken." Goes, "I'm admittedly heartbroken. Recently, I took my collectibles out of storage and began to cash them in. Basically, vintage Star Wars, G.I. Joe stuff, and all my comics. So I begin by trading the toys to some guys at the LCS for $1,000 in store credit. I'm thinking win. So I pick some hopefully good comics to add to my comic collection, spending $700 of the $1,000. Next, I get super lucky," and this is where maybe not so much, "and meet one of the most experienced local collectors in my major metro area. He has the day off and will check out my goods for free. His conclusion after checking out the whole collection, couple $100. Piles of original Kenner Star Wars, complete G.I. Joes, and then all the comics, a couple $100. And so this is when you go, okay, when you just look at this, even this is tough to say that that's a couple $100. Like, if you look at this and say maybe there's 150 books per box, then you've got effectively six boxes. Maybe there's 900 books. And if you just roughly valued that at 25 cents a book, that's $225 right there. Like, that's a couple $100 without even looking at what is in any of the boxes. And that doesn't include the toys. So he's saying here that he's got a bunch of original toys, that those are going to have value. I'm not going to be talking about that here, but already, like, this person, it seems like they didn't come in with good faith. They didn't come over to just be like, oh, I'll just value your collection for you, give you an idea what it's worth. That is not what this person is doing. Clearly, this person is trying to put into this other guy's head that this has no value, so that hopefully he can probably try to take it from him or steal it from him effectively later. So, because if you're saying the value is $200, like, maybe he's gonna be like, oh, I'll offer you $100, I'll take it off your hands, something like that. So now let's start looking at what's actually in this collection. We'll get a closer look at the pictures. And the cute little dog down here, he's not part of the collection. So it's a little tough to go through this and see. He's got everything kind of like roughly laid out, and he's got a bunch of pictures here. And I went through and I picked out all the books that I valued at $25 or more. So I'm going to call those the keys, because that's how I would start approaching valuing this collection. I would break it down by those keys that I would value at, in this case, $25 or more, because this is not a high dollar collection, but it still has some nice books in it. So now let's start identifying some of the books that are in here. And I'm going to make this a kind of like the solo screen here, so you can see everything a little more clearly. And we can see right off the bat, we've got some relatively expensive books that are here. We've got a Secret Wars 8 right here. That's a book that's easily $100 to $150 in just about any condition. We've got a Marvel Team Up 141, one of the other early Black Suit Spider-Man appearances. We've got a Transformers #1 right here. We've got a Teen Titans 44. We've got the earlier series Teen Titans number 23. We have a Young Avengers #1, that director's cut, long shot #1. At least I'm pretty sure that's a #1. Long shot #1. And then some of the not as big of keys, X Factor 1, Rocket Raccoon. Then we've got that classic Superman and Supergirl cover. We've got a Legends #1. A few of these like Marvel Age books that can be worth like $5 to $10 each. But let's keep looking through the pictures here. I mean, here, and I'm going to assume this is a first print. We've got Batman Dark Knight #1. We've got a Venom #1. We've got this, looks like a relatively early-ish Thor book here. We've got that X-Men and Teen Titans up here. There's a whole bunch of Spawn. Now, I am not an expert on Spawn, but I know if you get some of those issues in kind of like the late 100s to 200s, they can be lower print runs. And if you have high grade copies, 9.6s, 9.8s, they can have quite a bit of value to them. So there could be a lot of value buried in this Spawn here, but that's hard to evaluate from these pictures. Then with the next screen, nothing else really jumps out as a high value book in here, but there's definitely some $5-ish books, that kind of thing. And I'm sure I'll miss something. So, don't shoot me if I miss some minor keys that are in here. Then we go to this page here. We've got that first Iron Spider. What else might be in this screen here? Nothing else that really jumps out to me on this screen. And then the last screen here, this is a pretty big book down here. This Batman 608. This is the second print down here on the bottom. We've got a Journey into Mystery 122. We've got a Demon #1, Eternals #1, Amazing Spider-Man 78, Amazing Spider-Man 298. So we've got a lot. And, of course, it's Action Comics #1. That's definitely the reprint. Got a Booster Gold #1, Spawn #1, Web of Spider-Man #1. I mean, there are plenty of decent keys here that are in this collection that make you go a couple $100. That what that person said is a joke. That's just an absolute joke. That there's no way that what is here is just a couple of $100. And so what I did was I identified all of those, just to kind of get an idea what these books are worth and how I would value this collection. So we'll start with the Secret Wars 8. So Secret Wars 8 here, I'd value that one in its raw state. And again, if it was a 9.8 contender or a 9.6 contender, you would want to get it graded. You could make a little more money out of it. But we'll say in its raw state, $100 to $150. Then we've got this Batman 608. If you're not aware, and this second print is a very desirable book. It is a very expensive book. If it's a 9.8, it's like a $600 to $700 book. But we'll say in its raw state, we'll assume it's not a 9.8. We'll say it's $100 to $150. If we go to GPA and see what I'm talking about here, even if you go down to an 8.5, this book recently sold for $165. 9.4, $250. You go up to the 9.8 here. Last sale was $750, which is really high. I mean, it was looking at more like around a $575 to $600 book. But just so you can kind of see what type of value is actually there. And we have that Amazing Spider-Man number 78. That's a $125 book all day. That's the first appearance of the Prowler. If we go to look up Amazing Spider-Man number 78, just again, we're not going to look up all of these here, but just so you can kind of see where you should be focusing when you're trying to value a collection like this. And if we say this was even a mid-grade copy, I mean, a 6.0 went for 153, a 5.0, 120. And so I'm going to assume maybe this book is like between a 5 and a 6. And if it's higher, hey, great, it's worth even more. But this book, again, probably about $125 book. Now we've got Demon #1. Now he said in the comments that he had Demon 1 through 4. So that Demon 1 is probably a $50 to $75 book. Could be a little more. Again, depends on grade. Could be worth a lot more. But I'm going to pretend that those are worth about $100. That Dark Knight Returns, it's not on this page, but that one easily $75 to $100 book. The Transformers 1 that's right here, that's a very desirable book. And if it's in high grade, can be worth over $1,000 in a 9.8. But here we'll pretend it's kind of like a mid to upper grade, $50 to $75. Then here we've got that first, what is it? It's like first cameo of Venom where he's not really on the page, but kind of in the shadow in that Amazing Spider-Man 298. $35 to $50 easily, and could be worth more. Got the Marvel Team Up 141, that early Black Suit Spider-Man appearance, all day $50 book, could easily be $100, $200, depending on condition again. That Young Avengers #1, the director's cut, I don't see it on this screen, but that one, $35 to $50. The Teen Titans 44. Oh, here's that Young Avengers 1. Then the Teen Titans 44, which I don't think I see on the screen here. Maybe it is. But that one, I have it about a $35 book. The Teen Titans 1, a $25 book. The Journey into Mystery, $25 book. Venom, $25. Booster Gold #1, $25. And Eternals 1, $25. Now, again, all of those could be worth a lot more than that if the conditions justify it. But there is no way that I can make that assessment here based on these pictures. So based on that, and I'm not even including any of the Spawn books, which in theory there could be hundreds or thousands of dollars in value in those Spawns if they're 9/8 contenders. I've got these books, just the keys, worth between $880 and $1,060. So right now, I mean, you can see like that supposed, expert that came from his area is full of crap and was trying to rip this person off. Like, there's no question in my mind that that person was going to approach him later, or he was going to have a friend approach him later to try to rip him off. And so I'd say 880 to 1,060 there. Then there were a few of those sub $25 books like Legends #1, Long Shot 1, X Factor 1, that kind of thing. I value those at about $75. And then, like I said at the beginning of this video, if we look at just kind of the full volume that's here, I'm just going to assume 150 books per box. Maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little less. That's about 900 books, give or take, because you see there's like some stacks on the table here, all that kind of thing. So 900 books, I'm going to roughly say 25 cents a book. Now, we know there are books in there that are worth more than that. We know some of those books could be $2, $5, maybe even $10 for some of those. But there's probably, from what I could see, a lot of stuff that isn't worth very much, is worth basically zero. So we're just going to say 25 cents a book just to be safe. That's the bulk. Usually, if somebody is going to buy a collection, they're really not paying you for the bulk. That's something that you are largely throwing in because you just want to get rid of it, and they're going to have to take some time and effort to deal with it one way or the other. So, but the bulk value, I'd say about $225. So roughly, the total value of what was there, $1,180 to $1,360. So, and again, it could be significantly more than that if there are some high grade books that are part of this collection. If there are those 9/6, 9/8 contenders, you could be adding hundreds or thousands of dollars to that total, but there's no way to make that assessment based on this. So if I was making an assessment based on what I could see here, and this person said like, hey, what's my collection look like it's worth? I'd be like $1,200 to $1,400. That's approximately what I would tell that person. And I would say, with the caveat that if you have some really high grade books, you could have a lot more value in that collection. Because what I could tell from this post was that person just said that they would come over to evaluate their collection for them. It wasn't that they were making an offer to buy it. And so valuing what's here and and this isn't even counting these toys that were part of it, at a couple $100 is insane. It's insulting. It gives a bad name to anybody that's out there trying to buy collections or evaluate collections, that kind of thing. And it's the type of stuff that just really bothers me. And so I wanted to make this video to talk about it, because I do think that somebody going out, I think buying collections, there's value in that. There's value to the community. It's helping somebody get rid of their stuff. It's getting the books redistributed out to others, and the person should make a profit. But don't pull this kind of garbage saying that a collection like this is worth a couple $100, because that is ridiculous. Now let's look at this from the perspective of a dealer. So somebody who's going in to pick up this collection, they want to turn their profit on it, whatever that might be. What do I think that is a reasonable offer for this collection based on how I have approximately valued it? So I think what I would offer is I would be offering based on those keys. So I'm really looking at what is that key value. And I said $880 to $1,060. And now, again, some of those books may be in much worse condition than what I think. So I'm generally going in, and I would probably be offering somewhere between $450 to $500. And so my reasoning behind that is that I'm wanting to approximately double my money. And so if I'm thinking the low end on those keys is $880, at $450, I'm going to be able to double my money. And then I've got a few other books that are in there that maybe I can make some more. And I'm also accounting for the fact that what if there's a page missing out of one of those keys? Like say the Secret Wars 8 is missing a page, or the ASM 78 is missing a page, and immediately one of the big books that I need to get my money back out is gone. And or it's not gone, but it's worth significantly less. Then that's the type of thing you really have to account for when you're dealing with raw books like this. I mean, if you've seen some of my videos that I've done about this Golden Age collection, some of the keys that have been in there have had problems, missing pages or cutouts or chew or that kind of thing. And so you do have to make sure that you're also accounting for that on the dealer side when you're buying. But I still think $450 to $500 is a very reasonable, fair offer with this. And, maybe I find some of those Spawn books that are 9/8 candidates and I get a little more out of it. That's a possibility, but I'm not really paying for that because I don't know for sure what I'm going to get with those additional books. But for me, I would be offering about $450 to $500. That way I can get my money back out with about 5 of those big books, like the Secret Wars 8, the Batman 608, the ASM 78, the Demon 1, Dark Knight Returns, and I've got my money back. Then I'm trying to make my profit off the rest. And so you're making your profit off the little bit harder books to sell, the smaller books, that kind of thing. And that's how I would approach it. I think I could easily double my money, maybe make a little bit more. And I'm dealing with all of the bulk and everything else that's in that collection. But let me know what you think. If you saw this collection, if you saw those keys that were part of this collection, this approximate value, what would you pay? Do you think that $450 to $500 is way too low? Should it be way more? But I mean, again, I am going into this, like I said from the beginning, we can't be lying to ourselves here. Like the reason you're buying this collection is because you are trying to make a profit. And so, yeah, I know people want to get it for as little as possible, all that kind of thing. But I think if you came into this and you offered this person $200, it's a joke. It's insulting for what's in here, where you could just be like, that Secret Wars 8 could easily be worth that $200 just right there. And so let me know, let me know what you think. I think that this can be a touchy subject. It's one where it really bugs me sometimes, because I think that there are some people that really get taken advantage of, and it's unfortunate. They've spent their lives building their collections, and then they let it go for just nothing. And I think there's some people in the community that cheer that. They're like, oh, you got a great deal on that collection. But me, it really bothers me. And that's why usually, like, if somebody reaches out to me and they say they have a collection for sale, I try to be as upfront as possible. And I say, I am going to be offering, X percent of value for these books. If you want to maximize your value, you should sell them yourself. And I don't think very many people are upfront about this kind of thing. And it just bothers me that I think that, like I said, people spend their lifetimes building up these collections and then they get stolen from them for just for nothing. But again, let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments, and I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to know what your opinion is on this. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I got more videos over here. I got the subscription button right here, and I will see you in the next video.